Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. I just can't resist the filming overhead. I love it. Mostly because I was standing in my kitchen last night looking at my cell phone and this palette jumped up onto my screen. This is from Makeup on Your Radar 2 on Instagram. She's fabulous about posting new releases. And this is the Bloom palette. So it is yet another pinky, coral, warm. Let me read the description. So this says a 15 pan warm toned eyeshadow palette of new floral hues in NATASHA's iconic formula, crafted to create perfect springtime looks. So it's meant to be floral. Okay. So this is not a new concept for her. She has done pink palettes, she has done purple palettes. And if you saw my video where I talked about the Roxa palette, we addressed that. So we're going to dupe this palette. And I think I'm going to add in a little bit of the Roxa palette. We'll add a little bit of the Love, the Retro. I'm just going to kind of mash these all together into one dupe palette, including my own singles. So my Cleona singles and the rest of my eyeshadow singles, which I haven't really reached into since I decluttered them recently. So let's start with my Natasha Denona palettes. This is the Star palette. I bought this for like $10, mostly because I wanted the outside packaging. But some of these mattes are actually still in decent shape. Some of these shimmers are really nice, but they are losing their binding agent. So there's a lack of grip there. I don't know if we're going to use these. We'll try. I then have the Roxa palette, which you have seen, as well as my favorite Natasha Denona palette, which is the My Dream palette. Honestly, I think she could have just stopped here. She didn't need a million other palettes. I think this one is perfect. All right, so what I really want to look at, I want to blow up the screenshot so that I can see the finishes. Oh my god, y'all. This is like corals and pinks, and I'm pretty sure we can dupe with what I've got. I'm going to go ahead and pull out from my singles the shadows that are lingering in my brain. We got the beat. We got the beat. All right. So the first three that immediately jump to mind are this brown, this red-based brown, this incredible strawberry red, and this kind of like mucky fire fleshy brown. There we go. I zoomed you in one more. Hopefully that will suffice. Man, she's got nothing in here that's like taupe. She's got cooler tones, but they're darker. Petal is just like a cream eyeshadow. It's just a white, and I have one of those. So those are the three that immediately jumped to mind when I looked at this palette. It's like, I have those. I have that entire palette in basically 3 single eyeshadows. All right, I want to jump into the Lila palette. This is not the entire Lila palette. This has been cobbled together from other palettes that I've owned and I've decluttered shadows from and made this amalgam of shadows, and I love it. Do I want what do I want here? I think I want this one. I don't know that I'm trying to dupe this shade for shade. I'm just trying to get the essence of this palette, and then we'll use other shades from other palettes to either pad it out or, get the color story in tune. I want a taupe. I don't see a taupe anywhere in this palette, but I want one, and it's my palette. All right, I think we're good here. All right, let's discuss the My Dream palette, because I think this one's going to have, again, a fair number of shades that are going to give us a similar effect. But I also want to balance this. It's an incredibly warm-toned palette, and at first blush, I was a little speechless because it is beautiful. but I feel like she's done these exact shades before. Okay, so I pulled a couple from this palette. Looking at this and yeah, it's the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. I have to admit, the packaging has gotten me. It's gorgeous. I am partly trying to talk myself out of wanting it and being a little extra cynical about it because this is not something that is a new idea. It's not a new concept. I think I'm done with this one. Let's pull out the newbie on the block. There's this bottom shade Equinox. Oh, is that going to get me in trouble? That's going to get me in trouble. Okay. Little side hack for y'all. I love depotting my palettes. I do not love trying to figure out which palette they go to or where they belong in the palette. So what I do is I assign a row and a column number to each shadow. So these are rows. So row A, B, C, and column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that one goes there. So that would be A4. Oh, and it's already labeled. C5. Oh, this one I couldn't label because the bottom is all weird. So it's the only one from the My Dream palette that's not labeled. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little labeling on these two. So this is A1. And this would be, oh, that one can't be labeled. It's got that textured bottom. But that is how I keep all of my shadows aligned. And I have the same thing in my Lila palette, although some of these are from other palettes. So this is from either the Coral or I can't remember the other palette I had. So most of these are labeled on the bottom. All right, let's keep moving. Do I want any of these like cooler toned plums? So I seem to remember from when I reviewed this palette that these two shades, they look like they're gonna have a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of like peachiness, and they are pink. They are bright pink. So I'm not going to take those shades. I will keep them in mind, but I'm not going to take those. All right, now for the fun stuff. I mean, this whole thing is fun. I love this stuff. I really do. I love taking inspiration and throwing stuff against the wall to see what would work with it. Okay, what do I have that fits into this orangey, peachy? Honestly, I have quite a bit here. And I'm not going to be too picky right now. I know some of these are going to get put away, and that's all right. So we're also venturing into like the red gold category. We're staying in like these peachy, like floral tones, I guess. And then we're bringing in some brilliance and some color shifties. I'm looking at the swatches, and I only see one or two shades that really look like they've got some punch. Everything else just looks so pulling out effervescent because it's just like the perfect shimmer for almost any eyeshadow palette. All right, I think that's good for Cleona. We're going to go through the rest of my singles now. I only went through one side. We're going to go through this side and we're going to pull out. I want to get a little bit of the Roxa palette in here, a little bit of that grungy purpleness. This is basically going to be a dupe of all of Natasha Denona's purple and pink palettes because there are so many. Just unbelievable how many palettes she can come up with that all seem to have the same color story. All right, what else have we got here? Let's pull you out. We haven't used you since we repressed you. Yes, you were repressed. I want Miser. and I want Mr. Sandman. There is Mr. Sandman. Where is Miser? Not next to it. Yes, that is Miser. Okay. I'm going to pull out the mats and just see what I have to work with and figure out if I need to pull anything else in. This has some sheen and some shimmer. I believe this is a Kaja shadow, but it does actually work in the crease. When you put stuff that's brighter next to it, it tones it down. Honestly, I think that's gorgeous. I love it. Okay, palette done. No, we're going to swatch all of these. We're going to do some rearranging because that is part of the fun. Pull out that desaturated lavender. Which of these is the one that I always want to use but never do? One of these is just like the perfect, oh, there we go. Yes. You're fun too. Maybe we'll bring you to the party as well. Yeah, you can both come. There's space for everybody. I think I am also going to toss in this really beautiful brown. This again is from the Orange Trio from Kaja. And this is Painted Lady, I think. Yeah, this is Painted Lady from ColourPop. I'm tempted to pull out all of these brownie raisin mucky shades, but I know I'm just going to put half of them back because that is a color I have in spades. All right, let's take a look at this and see if there's anything usable or undupable. So the first thing I'm drawn to is actually this yellow, which I'm not liking. It's a little too puce. You see how these are just really thin? And yeah, they've just gotten worse as I've had them. I've only had this palette a couple months. But we may end up destroying it and seeing if we can repress these and make the palette work. Or I may just declutter the palette and declutter the eyeshadows, keep the pans in the palette. Okay, now the fun of where to start swatching. Let's start with the mattes. Let's do that. Let's start with the mattes. That way we can get a better perspective on what we may need to pull in addition. So this is a satin, but it very much reads as a matte on the eye. All right, so this is from Flower Beauty, one of my favorite browns. It's red, it's a warmer toned brown. It doesn't have a whole lot of yellow in it. So this palette has just like the sheerest wash of pink. I don't know what that shadow is going to do. It's called a petal. But I threw in a matte that I'm trying to finish. It's so almost done, but I don't reach for this anymore. I reach for my face powder if I need to blend. These two are from the My Dream palette. I love, oh my goodness. Okay. Do I want both of these? I don't think I want this one. I want to keep that brown, but I don't need that secondary one because they look so similar. Look at that taupe. That is how her formulas behave. That wimpy, wishy-washy stuff, that palette is old. So this is Snowberry from Nabla. No, it's not. This is Artemisia from Nabla. And it's a little more purple. It's a little more, cooler toned. We're trying to balance tone here. I'm not trying to make an all peach and all pink. I'm trying to find a balance. There we go. Very, very pale. This one is also from the My Dream palette. That works perfectly. We love her. I want to look at this. This is one of my favorite shadows, and you'd never know it. It does have a dip. This is from the Peak palette. And I think I want to keep it. It does feel like it's getting a little old, which makes me sad because I love the shadow and I've loved it for a long time. All right. Other large Natasha Denona shadows that have come into my life from who knows where. Yeah, this one feels like it's starting to go off a little bit too. It's a little dustier. All right, so there we have a pretty nice arrangement of mattes. You've got everything from super light to dark, cool to warm. I'm good with that. Okay, here we have shiny eyeshadows. Let's pull out the Cliona shadows because those are definitely going to read differently. So we'll have to judge them by a different metric. Okay, we have effervescent. This is just such a winner. It's bright. It's got that little bit of yellow, but it's also got a hint of peach to it. It literally is an everyday multichrome. Torch. So this is going to lean a little bit more towards the red orange, which we actually want for this palette. Trinket, which for some reason I always call Twinkle. I don't know why. So there is, it appears one like fine duochrome in this palette, in the Bloom palette, called Equinox. I think that might be a little more opaque, but we also have these two from the Roxa palette. This is Coronation, Cinder. This is Cinder. I don't know. Looking at Torch and Cinder side by side, they both do bring something different to the party. Cinder has that dark pink reflect. The funny part about these is I make these palettes. This is Smolder Light, so it doesn't have that gray base. And I have a blast making them, and then they stay together for a while, and I forget to use them. So I then take them apart, and I build another palette. This is Roseline. This is an interesting shadow. It really is. It's a little grungy, it's a little purple. It's got a little gray in there. It's funkadelic and I love it. All right. Let's pull out these two from Flower Beauty. These aren't going anywhere. These are going to stay. They're going to go in the palette. They're going to be used. I love this eyeshadow. It's one of my favorites. When these two go off and they're no longer usable, I will repurchase the Desert Lights palette from Flower Beauty just to have these two shadows. All right, let's pull out the rest of these Natouche shades. It's just easier for me to sort things that are similar shapes. That goes very much with the like pinchy, pinky peachiness of it all. I do like that shadow. It's subtle, but it's really pretty. We've then got this orange beauty. I didn't think I liked orange eyeshadow until I started wearing it with things that complement it and complement it against my skin tone. All right, we're going the entire different direction. These are those two that I pulled out of the Roxa palette. I don't know. No, these are just they're nothing. They're a wisp. So this is Space Cowboy from Urban Decay. I could not put together a palette of this ilk and not use this shadow. It does, again, it's just a really easy utilitarian eyeshadow. Painted Lady from ColourPop is an interesting one because it has that peachy reflect, that peachy base, and it's got this really nice champagne toned glitter in there. So it's just, again, really pretty. Miser, one of my all-time favorite eyeshadows. I did have to replace mine because mine just was not as functional, and I don't feel like this one's as shiny. But again, I I like it for what it is, and it does fit into that peach to, I don't even know how to describe it. The peach to pink to purple to mucky raisin shades that are going into like the Roxa palette, the Love palette, the Retro palette. Like, Natasha Denona has so many of these eyeshadows. I'm not kicking anything out here yet. Oh wait, yes I am. I've picked out these three. This Kaja Brown is something special. It's just so easy. Excuse you. This is Mr. Sandman, again from ColourPop. You know, don't count ColourPop out as far as their shadows go. I did see that they released some of their 9 pans. They re-released and repackaged some of their 9 pans. And I think it's hilarious that they released them at the same time. I really like that. They released them at the same time as Charlotte Tilbury introduced her 9 pans that are just like, all right, these two are so similar, and this one feels like it's going to go off. I think I'm actually going to declutter this one. And these two I threw in because they're fun, they're a little different. And this is another really easy to wear shadow. We're going to use this one from Luxie that is unbothered. And I'm going to go ahead and arrange these and we'll speed through. I feel like I play eyeshadow Tetris a lot. And I learned watching Jeopardy that Tetris was invented in Russia. All right. I can tell as I'm loading shadows in that this is getting a little bit overwhelming. And it may just be the way I had to lay everything out to fit. And now I can kind of give everything a bit of space. Now that it's all in there. All right, so that's my response, I guess, to Natasha Denona and her endless assault of pink, purple, peach, berry tones, raisin tones. It just feels like it's never ending. It really does. Let me swatch this out, and then I think that will be it. Those two are so similar. I'm going to take the small one out. So there's phase one. Did I swatch that one already? All right. There it is, folks. This is why I don't need, but I do want the Bloom palette. I also have like had a yearning for the retro palette. So we'll see what comes with the Sephora sale, and maybe I won't buy anything. Maybe I will just force myself to stick to using the eyeshadows I have instead of buying additional palettes, because that just makes sense. All right, y'all. That is going to do it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this palette down below. Honestly, I think it's really gorgeous. I just think it's repetitive and redundant and unnecessary. So, if I did not introduce myself, my name is Rachel. I'm an artist, I'm neurodivergent, I'm also disabled, and those are the lenses through which I perceive my makeup and my content. I hope y'all are taking care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, friends.